We're working. All right, it
We
should be
are
going.
live.
We are live.
Wonderful. And yeah, Vicki, make sure everything on the bottom is all good, ready to go. We're here with Vicki Vollweiler. Vollweiler. It's a big one. It's a mouthful. Uh,
I hate to
and
say it's like Rottweiler, but Vollweiler.
Rottweiler,
okay,
but Vollweiler. That
got
works.
it. Got it. Yeah, we're going to be talking about college financial prep. That's her business. And she said that college is on sale. That's what we're going to start talking about today, how it can be on sale. Because as you were saying when we were chatting earlier, October 1st is a big date, right? In
Mm-hmm.
your scene. So I
Definitely.
know you're going to talk a little bit about that. But as everybody knows, we are Purse Strings, and we come here every week to talk about different financial topics. And even though this is a 50 plus group, a lot of us have kids going to college at that age, right? Getting ready or re-engaging in college maybe after COVID, or maybe we have grandparents that are helping college students, get to college. So we are glad to bring you this expert on how to fund the college expenses. So Purse Strings provides free online tools and resources for women. We're all things free for women. And we also pull together this amazing, what I call Rolodex of Purse Strings approved professionals like Vicki, who are at your beck and call at any point in time. If you want to send a child to college, you need to buy a house, you're going through a divorce, you're getting married, maybe you want to start saving for retirement. We've looked high and low and we select those top tier financial professionals who really know how to serve a female market. So that's our niche, because I've done the research, Maggie and I have done the focus groups, and a lot of women don't trust financial professionals for lots of different reasons. You can only imagine, I'm sure everybody has a story, because usually everyone tells me their story. But all that stops with Purse Strings. Purse Strings is about finding those top tier financial professionals who want to engage with the female market and really wants to serve them, knows how to serve them. And one of them today is Vicki. She is going to talk about college on sale and kind of how to navigate that what I thought was a complicated college process. Thank God for my daughter Maggie, who really navigated the FAFSA, all that stuff on her own and just asked
Yeah.
us for the information.
We needed a Vicky at that point.
I know.
I think that would have been more helpful. I mean, I think I would have saved more than just the
Well,
fast stuff.
definitely. Yeah. It's
But,
so expensive. It's so expensive.
It is. But to your point about college being on sale, everybody needs to remember colleges are businesses. They want to fill seats. So, yeah, it is possible to get a college price on sale. It's just knowing how to do it. So we'll get into that a little bit in. But you mentioned about how this is a 50 plus group, and yes, I'm 50 plus, and my son is only 22, so we're actually navigating grad school right now. But it's not just today's presentation isn't even about just college and how to fund college. We're also going to talk a little bit about student loans, because whether you have your own student loans, whether you have your kids' student loans, even if they've already graduated, there are so many concerns about how to pay back those student loans. It really impacts people's futures, their retirements, the kids' future, and buying a house or a car and whatnot. So we'll talk a little bit about that too.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Maggie, that's your ish, right?
yeah. Talk about that with everyone on here. Yeah, I'm loving Biden holding off on those student loans right now. So, but I'm excited to see what you have to share. I'll be taking my notes.
Yeah.
We'll get into like a little bit of it today. So yeah,
awesome.
If anybody has questions, they could always ask me afterwards.
Yeah. Awesome. Great.
Yeah. All great topics.
If anyone has questions throughout, just throw them in the chat and we can work on getting those taken care of. Let me pull up a little intro to Vicki and we can just get this party started.
Yeah, great. And we welcome to all those people watching through LinkedIn, where we're streaming as well, to get a little introduction about what is Purse Strings and what we do, and how we promote our professionals to our communities of women. This is one of the ways, is through different Facebook groups, 50 Plus and Fabulous, or
this is 50 plus live.
A Life Redesigned, which is also great. And Shelly, we love Shelly. So glad that Shelley allows us to join her group and share this good news with everyone about different things financial, because our goal at Purse Strings is for all women to be what we say is financially fearless. And we always say if we're not talking about money, we're not learning about money. So you'll find us here at 10:30 every Monday talking to this group. So take it away, Mags.
All right, so today we have Vicki Vollweiler, the founder of College Financial Prep. She works with clients nationally to help parents maximize savings, minimize college cost, and reduce the need for student loan debt for both parents and children. If you're unsure of how to proceed, don't risk those thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
College Financial Prep was here to guide parents through the maze of college financial aid, scholarship, and student loans. She works with both parents of high school and college students. And with that, Vicki, I'll give it to you and pull up your slides.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. Just going to wait for the slides to come up and then we can begin. Maggie? Here we go. So we're going to discuss how to save money on the cost of college. A little bit about College Financial Prep and how it began. It started with my own personal story. Just so you know, I graduated from Syracuse University with my MBA, and I attended there on a full free ride plus stipend. They paid me to go there. And then I went into corporate America, and I was VP of Client Services and Operations, and eventually I got divorced. And if anybody here has gone through the divorce process, you know it is not one to be taken lightly, and certainly not easy to go through. And I began helping clients separate their emotions from their finances so that they were able to make great decisions as they move forward. Anyway, as I'm working with clients, they began to say to me, now, how am I going to be able to afford the cost of college for my children? You know, and at that point, my own kids were starting to get a little older and I had to think about college myself. And anyway, after much consideration, research, thought, speaking with people, College Financial Prep was born. And we focus on how best to save money on the cost of college. You know, we all have our own goals. It should not be to go into debt. We all need to take care of ourselves as best as we can, and we all want to take care of our children as best as we can. And that's my goal in working with clients. So we're going to talk a little bit about student loan debt statistics and why this is such an important topic. So currently, there's $1.57 trillion in outstanding student loan debt in the United States. 54% of college attendees take on debt, including student loans, to pay for their education. And the average amount of student loan debt per borrower is over $37,000. So now let's talk about what's the impact for the student and what's the impact for the parent. So for the student, as I started to mention earlier, when the student has student loan debt, they may need to either take a job that pays more money, but may not be as one that makes them as happy as they could be. You know, maybe they have to choose a different career path from one that typically pays a lower yearly salary. You know, and having that student loan debt, it could impact purchasing a car. It could impact, you know, where they live. It could impact, you know, when they choose to get married, all these different things. For the parent, and please know that it's nearly impossible for a student to entirely take on the total burden of student debt themselves. For the parent taking on student loan debt for their children, it could impact your retirement. You'll be paying back those loans, you know, for many years, and instead of being able to put that money away for your retirement, now those funds are being used on something other. You know, it is possible to take out student loans for college and not possible to take out student loans for retirement, but really they both end up impacting you. So now, how is it best to reduce the cost of college? So in order to save money, what I like to do is use a system that I've named the goal system. So the first thing we want to do is generate a college list. Now, everybody generates a college list as they're going to school, but when College Financial Prep helps clients with their college list, we're going to make sure that they're financially friendly. We're going to go through them and make sure, based on a client's particular situation, some people may be married, some people may be divorced, some people may be widowed, some people may have lost a job, some people, everybody has their own situation. So we're going to generate a college list that's going to be financially friendly and meet the goals of the parents, what they need. Then come October 1st, a couple of weeks from now, is when financial aid forms open. This is huge. This is, if you've heard of FAFSA, CSS Profile, some of the colleges have their own financial aid forms. Some states have their own financial aid forms. So I always advise everybody to make sure these forms get completed. Even if, some families say, oh no, we earn too much, we have too much in the bank, it's still always beneficial to fill out the forms. Some schools, as counterintuitive as this may be, they won't award merit money unless they have financial aid forms on file. So I'm making this up. Even if a college is going to give your child $1,000 in merit scholarship money, fill out the financial aid form to make sure you get the $1,000 per year, because that's $4,000. Then as time goes on, the student gets accepted to various colleges. Then we're going to look to analyze the financial aid awards. And we want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, because unfortunately, nothing is standardized when it comes to those financial aid award letters. And by analyzing those financial aid awards, it helps us with looking for more money. We can determine, based on a family's particular situation, should we file appeals? Should we negotiate? Should we seek outside scholarships? So there are different techniques to use to save even more. And then lastly is when we secure student loans. May 1st is the college decision date, typically, where every student has to decide where they're going to school. And then after that, you'll find out the nitty gritty costs, and then it's time to determine where best to get the student loans, whether it's through the federal government or privately. So now, how do we find free money? And there are two main categories: through merit scholarships and need-based aid. So with merit money, most of it comes from the colleges themselves. It's not typically from the big, soda companies that give, that offer a merit scholarship. It's very rare for anybody to win those, but the bulk of the money that, your student will receive will likely come from the colleges, assuming they know which colleges to apply to. So merit money is awarded for a variety of reasons, and it's not just for academics. But even with academics, your child doesn't have to be a 4.0, 1600 on the SAT type of student. All different schools offer different type of merit scholarship awards to different kinds of students for academics. Also, they may award money because, giving some examples, maybe your child is a French horn player and they need a new French horn player for their band. Maybe you live in a geographic region that's very far from the college and they're looking to attract people from your area of the country. Maybe the school has started a new major and your child is interested in that major, and the college is looking to entice students to enroll into that program. So again, it's not just for academics, but academics is certainly one of the good reasons to look for merit scholarships. I always encourage everyone to take the ACTs and SATs for that reason, even though many of the schools have gone test optional, but many of the schools still do use those tests to award merit money. So now that we've talked about merit scholarships, let's talk a little bit about need-based aid. So need-based aid is typically based on your income and assets that you have available to pay for college. To apply for need-based aid, you have to complete the financial aid forms that we started to talk about earlier. Some schools only want FAFSA. Some schools want both FAFSA and CSS. It's very important to find out what each college wants. Also, some states offer financial aid programs similar to the federal government, but you have to know which states have that offering. Excuse me. With the need-based aid, it's also possible with applying for FAFSA to qualify for work-study programs, to get subsidized student loans. So again, very important to fill out those financial aid forms, to submit those financial aid forms. So here's a funny story, true story, but I'm going to compare my broken down heating system to the cost of college, just so you'll see an example of why I say, college is a business and, you can always get it on sale. So last January 1st, actually New Year's Eve, my heating system broke down, water's piling up in the basement. It was lovely. And I was fortunate enough to be able to have 2 people come on January 1st to give me quotes to put in a new heating system. The first person provided me with an estimate. Okay. And then the second person came later on that day, and he also provided me with an estimate. The price was a little cheaper, but also there were some other differences. Anyway, I opted to use the second guy, and I opted to call the first one back and thank him for his time, but tell him I was going with the other person. And immediately he says to me, well, can I give you a lower price? He wanted to negotiate. Anyway, my point is, if there are 2 schools that you're considering, you may be able to negotiate with the colleges based on the price. So just keep that in mind as you're going through the process. So, we all know that life happens, whether it's divorce, whether it's widowhood, whether it's a job loss, whether it's a medical illness, there's always something that's happening in our lives, and it may impact our finances. So when we're thinking about college and affordability, paying for these expenses, the key is to be strategic, and apply to the right colleges and universities that will likely offer you the best pricing. So if you are divorced, for instance, you might want to look at colleges that won't request the other parent's financial information. Some schools do, some schools don't. If your finances are limited, you definitely want to be mindful of what the net costs are going to be for your family before submitting applications. And when I say net costs, we're not just looking at the sticker price in the, that's listed on their website. The family that lives next door to me we may both have children who are high school seniors. They may both be applying to the same college. They may both get in, but ultimately what's on those financial aid award letters may look very, very different. And it's possible to estimate those beforehand. So it's important to do so if finances are constrained, or if you need to know where to apply ahead of time. And if you're looking to receive merit scholarships, analyze the student's achievements, and match them up with each college that's determined to determine likely awards. If your student is a, phenomenal, Ivy bound type of student, know in advance, Ivy League colleges do not give merit scholarships. You may need to drop down a tier and find other colleges that maybe have honors programs and may offer merit scholarships that way. So, even though we're talking about money and saving money, I always like to look forward. And, it's important to know that it's not all about the upfront money, though. So let's look at a couple of examples so you see what I mean. So an example number 1, this said New York State. It really doesn't even matter if it's New York State. It's anywhere. Say we're talking about 2 students that both want to be teachers. One student may go to an in-state college or university, and the other student may decide to go to a private university, an out-of-state university, somewhere other than an in-state public university. Ultimately, both of those teachers are likely to apply. They may apply to the same school district. They may have to take the same exact licensing exam. And really, at the same school district, they're likely to be paid the same amount of money. So now one person, the student who went to school in-state at the public university probably paid a lot less for her college education or his college education than the other student. It's important to consider what that return on investment for the college education is going to be, and if that future career path warrants spending the extra money. Now, with example 2, this student may wish to become a biomedical researcher, or some specialized type of career. They may have a specialized career path. Maybe they can only accomplish their goals at certain universities where they're known to have specific employers that come to recruit. In this type of situation, the student's career path and potential earnings may warrant taking out the student loans and whatnot. It may be in their best interest. So it's important to consider the student's career goals in addition to what is already available to the student in terms of funding for college. So now let's talk about some success stories and failures. Success stories are those families that plan ahead. The ones that, think about the colleges ahead of time, that fill out the FAFSA forms, the CSS profiles, that submit them. The families that negotiate and appeal based on their circumstances. These are the ones that always have successes. My clients typically have successes literally they save tens of thousands of dollars. I've actually had a few clients that have saved in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range, based on their sets of circumstances. It is possible, but it takes planning. Now, the failures, and this has happened to me too, unfortunately, they weren't clients. I've had people call me literally the 11th hour and 59 minutes. They'll be saying, my kid is in the car on the way to college. What can I do to save money now? At that point, it's too late. It really takes planning up front. Or at least, during by senior year of high school. There are times, when a change happens, maybe parents separate, maybe, a job loss, COVID hit, that impacted finances. There are ways to save money too when the child is already in college. But it just needs to be done with enough time to impact the cost. So just so everybody knows, there's no right or wrong college. Every family has different goals and values. I'm never, ever going to tell a client what school their child should go to. The goal is for you, the family, to be informed and make informed decisions. This is going to impact the parents, the students' finances going forward. So it's important that you're always aware of the information that's available and making the best decisions. So now we're going to talk a little bit about student loans and paying back student loans. So everyone automatically ends up on a standard repayment plan where the payments are fixed and divided over 10 years. But sometimes the monthly payments with this can be high. So there are other options available. So there's the income-driven repayment plan, and there are a few different ones of those. But the loan servicer extends your repayment term to 20 to 25 years while capping your monthly payment. And that's usually at a percentage of your discretionary income. So that can bring your monthly payment down, but it's extending out the time of the loan. With the graduated repayment plan, the payments under this start low, but they gradually increase every couple of years. So after 10 years, your loans are now paid off. So it's just restructuring it a little differently from the standard repayment plan. With the extended repayment plan, you'll repay, if you have over $30,000 in loans, you can repay it over up to 25 years. And you could choose between fixed or graduated payments, what works best for you. Other suggestions, though, is getting help from your employer, because employers can match your payments on certain loans. I believe it's up to $5,250 I saw. Also, you can refinance your student loans. You can take your federal loans and refinance it with a private lender, and take out a new loan for the amount of your, for the total amount of your current ones, and hopefully get a different interest rate, lower interest rate. So the new loan will have different terms, including the repayment term, the interest rate, and hopefully you'll have a better monthly payment that works for your family. So in summary, it's always important to be mindful of college costs. The process of saving on the cost of college begins when you're first looking at colleges, and it goes all the way through to getting student loans and minimizing your costs on those student loans. Saving money, please remember, this is not based solely on the completion of a financial aid form. A lot of people think, oh, you fill out FAFSA and you're done. No, there's so many more things that can be done to help save on the cost of college. Also, communication with the child is important. Talk about their career goals. Make sure that if they have a certain path, put them on the best path possible to be able to accomplish their goals, and do it at as minimal a cost as possible, if possible to do so. As I just started to say, communicating with family members, again, with your students, be open, discuss finances, set shared goals and expectations. Tell them what's available, if there's a 529 or if there's a 529 plan or any other types of savings available, let them know what there is to spend per year. Let them be part of the process. Too often it'll be the last week in April and college decision day is May 1st. And the parents just have to say, I'm sorry, we can't afford for you to go there. And then the student is, so upset. So, try to not have that happen, talk up front, and then realize that there can be great opportunities that come from attending, most any college. The opportunities are out there. Going to, college A that's on every bumper sticker may not provide, all of the opportunities that college B may provide for your child. So, be flexible, be open-minded. And if you have any questions, contact College Financial Prep. We're here to help families through the process. It certainly can be confusing to many. We're pleased with the results we've seen and, look forward to helping people going forward. You can visit us online at collegefinancialprep.com. You can like us on Facebook at College Financial Prep. And also you could join our new Facebook group at facebook.com/groups, and it's called Preparing for College. Thanks, Maggie.
Whoops, there we go. Thank you, Vicki. That was great. It was great. I do like those tips. I was learning about some of the different ways you can start paying back in different chunks, besides, just the common 10-year plan that everyone's handed.
Right. So it's possible to reduce your monthly, but then it extends the payments out, and you may end up paying more over time, but you have to see what's going to be beneficial. The general you have to see what's beneficial to each person, if that makes sense in the long run.
What also makes sense to pay larger payments later if you think you're going to be earning more as you're, depending, again, like you said, on your career path and everything else that's chosen.
Right. Yeah. So there are many different options, in terms of how to structure paying back those student loan payments, and they may be better for some people than just staying on that standard plan that everybody's automatically
right. One of my questions for you is, what is kind of the around the ACT, SAT asking for? You said it was optional now for students.
A lot of the schools, especially because of COVID, they've gone test optional. Not test blind, but test optional. So many of the schools, you're still allowed to submit the scores. You don't have to submit the scores, but do me a favor, check with your school to see exactly what it says, because some schools do still require it, but many are leaning towards test optional now. But yeah, you have the choice. If you're thrilled with how you did on the test, send them. If you're not so thrilled with how you did on the test, don't send them. You can pick and choose which schools they get sent to. So it could be a big help in terms of receiving merit merit awards.
I was going to say, do you think that plays a big factor in it? And some of the, yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, it sounds like it'd be worth the investment just to.
Yeah, no, I always recommend that students take the tests, even, of course, no student wants to, but yeah, definitely, because it could impact the financial cost.
We all had to do it. We all had to do it.
Exactly.
And then it sounded like the two big dates we should all know is May 1st and October 1st. October 1st when the papers open, and then May 1st is big decision day.
Exactly. I mean, most kids know by May 1st, but I'll tell you a true story. I mean, with my own son, even though he knew where he wanted to go, and I was 99.99% sure where he was going to go, I wasn't ready to commit, because once you put in the deposit, you have less negotiating room. So, that's something else to keep in mind. You may not want to rush to put in a deposit, wait and see, but what can be negotiated further.
Definitely. Yeah. Once you commit, I mean, you're committed. So that makes sense that price wouldn't change. All right. Let me see if there's any other questions out there. Pull you in here, Barb.
Yeah, that was wonderful information. Like Maggie said, we could have used you a few years ago. But, one thing you didn't mention, which I think is important.
Is that hers?
Yeah, she froze.
Oh, I didn't know what end that was on. We'll see what she thinks is so important. But no, that was wonderful information. I'm trying to see if anyone else here has any questions while we're still on. But you covered it in great detail, which I like. And then do you help any families who go to school out of the country?
Not usually. I do work with clients nationally, everybody in the country. There's a situation.
Oh, so people coming here for school. Makes sense, yeah.
Right. So there's a situation that I'm working on now where they are American citizens living abroad but want to come back. So like that, yes, but the colleges, they're typically all U.S. citizens.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's great that you can always help people all over the country, which is awesome as well. So I think we lost Barb on this call, but I think we got so much great information. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing all your knowledge today. So again, Vicki Vollweiler, founder of College Financial Prep. She's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So you can check her out on our webpage, pursestrings.co. And we'll be here again next Monday to have more great topics for all of you. So thank you.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, everyone.